What I focused on in the book was asking why do societies suddenly become less complex, suddenly simplify? This is what I mean by a collapse. And I focused on the economic factors that underlie complexity. What's generally not understood is that to be a complex society has a very high, what we might call a metabolic cost. In the past, human societies had to pay for that metabolic cost through their own labor. Now we pay for it through fossil fuels, so we're largely unaware of it. But when there is a situation where the economic flows begin to break down or become disrupted, particularly when it comes to something like supplies of petroleum, then prices go up, costs go up, and the economy is harmed. And we see that happening now, at least in the United States. The price of petrol has gone up, I would guess perhaps $1.30 a gallon over what it was a year ago. And that affects the whole economy.
Let's come to economics, because ultimately we can't get away from the subject. What you're actually talking about is inflation. Central bankers, policymakers have gone on one of the greatest monetary experiments in human history and are now standing around looking shocked. There's indeed consternation from various central banks saying, "Oh, this inflation genie's back, but don't worry, just temporary, but we are going to keep an eye on it." Are you surprised that inflation is back? And if it is, and you think it is, what effect does that have on a collapse of a complex system?
I'm not surprised that inflation is back, and the government economists are now claiming that they're not surprised, although I doubt that's correct. But given that there are shortages and many people returning to participating in the economy, particularly in areas of recreation and other activities that involve mixing with a lot of people, it's not surprising that shortages have led to inflation. I don't see this having an effect on a propensity of a society to collapse in the short term. We went through much worse inflation in the 1970s, and we're ultimately able to control it. But it took a lot of pain to bring it under control. What I focused on in the collapse book was how complexity grows to solve problems or to take advantage of opportunities. And complexity always has an economic cost. As I said, we mostly pay for it today through energy, through fossil fuels. So we're largely unaware of that. But the economic cost is still there. And as the complexity of a society increases, it comes to cost more and more per capita. And in past societies, we saw this increasing to the point where complexity was simply no longer feasible. It was not economically feasible any longer, and so these societies would collapse.